Now we've talked about how to use ZBrush's default insert meshes. So you go to BI, here's all the insert mesh brushes you can use. You can make your own just by having a subtool, stack. Now here's the other thing too. If we go back to the stack here, as long as these are all oriented how you want to capture them, all you need to do is snap to one side, hit B, create insert multi-mesh, and that'll go ahead and if we hit B, it's going to look the same, but you're going to see we have one brush here, we have another brush here. Essentially what it did was take this entire stack of subtools and make it into an insert mesh brush. If we go back to that original one where we extracted these from our original BI brush insert industrial parts here, so we've extracted these ones, and now we go to Phillips type, and we go into solo mode, you can see, okay, so how these are originally created, if we hold down shift and snap to the side here, they're all pointing right at me, right at the camera. So if I go to B, create insert multi-mesh, it'll go ahead and just recreate this brush. If I had gone through here and I had appended, say, this colored one, now this color one isn't oriented the same way as the other. So what I'm going to do is rotate this one around, just hold down, Alt tap it, rotate it around, hold down shift. So now it's oriented the same way as the bolts. Hit B, create insert multi-mesh, or go to your brush, create insert multi-mesh, and now when it created this brush stack again, it has 13 now, and the last one is this one. Although I could have, like I mentioned before, I can go to BI, brush insert, industrial parts, and then with this one selected, I can go B, create insert mesh, append, and that'll append it. I can also go brush from mesh, and that'll append it as well. Incidentally, I can also select one of these things and then go to mesh, and that'll replace my selected subtool with that mesh, I think. Although, you know what? I think it just made a new one. So if I go over here, let's grab this one, say brush to mesh. There we go. It actually makes a whole brand new subtool, so you don't need to worry about losing anything. So if you ever want to steal one, you can just do brush to mesh. If you change your mind, you can also hit W and cycle through them, and then select this one. And for some reason, it came in super tiny, so what I'm going to do is go down to deformation and hit unify, and then there we go. So now I can make modifications of this however I'd like. One more thing I want to show you because it's going to become relevant later. Let's go ahead and grab a plane 3D out of here, go into edit mode, make polymesh 3D. Let's go to BI brush insert, grab primitives, and we'll go ahead and grab, BI brush insert primitives, and we'll go ahead and grab a cylinder. If you drag that out and you hit W and you start cycling through, you're going to see they're just going to cycle through, and all these spheres will be appropriately sized based on the, I guess, overall bounding box of the cylinder. However, if we grab the cylinder again and we drag this one out, and now we change the bounding box size, and then we go through here and you hold down shift, the insert mesh brushes will inherit the bounding box size of that object. So again, the only reason I bring this up is that it will come into play in just a minute here. Let's go ahead and go into our simple brush here, go into Sphere 3D, go into Edit Mode, make Polymesh, hit BI Brush Insert, and go to IMM Body Parts. And you're going to notice that we have a bunch of body parts that we can pull from in order to create a human body. If you want to make your own body parts list, or like bones or skeletons or something, it's pretty simple. For example, if you hit the comma key, we'll go into Tool. Let's go ahead and double click the demo soldier here, go into Hide, and then with his body selected, go to Subtool, do Delete Other. And now we've got a human body. Now this thing is already split up into parts. If we want to, we can just isolate the arm and then split that off into its own subtool. Or if you want more precise cuts, you can go through here and you can say, okay, the arm is fine. I'm also going to slice through the elbow. So hold down Control Shift with your slice curve, double tap. So you can slice through here. And of course, we're going to go down to geometry, go down to subdivision level. We'll keep it at subdivision level 3, delete lower. We'll slice right through the elbow. We'll slice right through the wrist. For this leg, we'll Control Shift click it, and then we'll slice through the knee. So now what we can do is we can use this as an insert mesh brush. We just want to insert mesh's body. We'll duplicate this off and hit Q to go into draw mode, and then hold down Control Shift, isolate its head. Control Shift touch his head. I'm going to go into solo mode for this. Control Shift drag with select rectangle selected, and then go into split hidden. And then let's say we want a torso by itself. So again, Control Shift tap, Control Shift drag to invert, split hidden. We'll do his right leg here, split hidden. Oops, we'll go select this bottom one there, and we're just going to grab over this arm here, and then we'll just do delete hidden. Now if I want to divide this arm up into components, so I can like drag out an arm insert mesh brush, but I also want to do like maybe upper arm, forearm, and hand, or let's say just hand. So I got the whole arm insert mesh brush, but I just want the hand now. I'm going to duplicate the arm off, Control Shift click the hand, and then do another delete hidden. So now I've got the whole body, a leg, an arm, a hand, a torso, a head, and even for this leg here, we can duplicate this leg off, and we can just do like lower leg, delete hidden, and then we'll do duplicate this off again, and we'll do a slice, and we'll isolate the foot, delete hidden. So now I've got all these different parts of this body just kind of sitting here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down here to deformation. I'm going to hit unify, and then I'm going to go down to the very bottom here. I'm going to say repeat to other. So that's going to unify all of these body parts. And again, if you don't remember what unify is, we can append a cube, and it essentially puts everything at the 0, 0, 0 world axis. And if we go into transparency mode, it's also going to fit every single subtool within the bounding box of that cube. Now the scale doesn't matter because as we're dragging it out on our object later, it's going to dictate that scale. So let's go down to the very bottom here, take this cube, and we'll delete it. So I've got all these body parts, and my next thing I need to make sure is that I'm rotating them all the same way. So if I turn on my floor, let's say everything that's looking at me, I want to be Z forward, so that blue line coming out. So for the head, and I'll just work my way up, I'm going to hit W, go to the side, and hold down Shift. So when I drag this out, I want it to drag out with the head top looking at me. I'm going to go up one. The torso I think will be fine, just dragging straight out chest-wise. The hand we can rotate so it drags out. Let's make it so it drags out with the wrist. We'll do it for the fingers towards us. If you want to, we can hold down Alt and reset that so it's a little bit easier to kind of rotate around here. Go up one. This arm I'm going to rotate so the hole is away from us. Go up one. The foot, I'm going to rotate it so the bottom of the foot's looking at us. Go up one. Same thing for the leg. If I go into solo mode for this, you can see a little bit better. Since this one's going to be connected into hips, I'm going to make it so that the whole of the hips is away from us. And then the body, I guess that can just be, you know what, I'm going to make it so he'll stand on the ground when I drag him out. So now that I have all of these oriented the way I want out of solo mode here, I can go B, create insert multi-mesh. And now if we go back to our polymesh sphere, I now have a bunch of different body parts I can select from. So for example, if I want to drag out my guy, I'm going to drag him out and it's going to look like he's standing on whatever I drag him out on. So if it was a floor plane, he would just drag right out on the floor. If I keep going down the leg here, I can drag out a leg on this side. And if I go to the other side, for this leg over here, you're going to see it's going to be backwards. I can fix this just by going into deformation mirror in the Z axis, or you can capture another leg for the other side. Working our way through, now we can drag out a lower leg, a foot, an arm, a hand, a torso, and a head. So now because the head's looking right at me, or the top of it is, I can just drag it out on an object, and you can of course use your depth if you want this to be embedded a little bit. So now when I drag on a head, it'll kind of embed itself, so you can kind of fine tune how that needs to be applied. If you want to use a skeleton, let's go out of edit mode, hit Control N, and if you remember from the subtool practice, if you go over here to our tool menu, grab the skeleton model here, drag it out on your canvas. With the skeleton selected, I'm going to go down to our subtools, we're going to do delete other, and now we have an entire skeleton, and I can divide this up into parts as well, so just use your visibility to like select the skull, Control Shift A, Control Shift drag to invert that. We'll go ahead and split the skull out. And if we want to do two different versions of this skull, I can take this skull, we can duplicate it off. We can grab, say, the lower jaw and hold down Alt. We'll grab most of it. Control Shift drag, Control Shift A to grab it all. Control Shift drag to invert that selection. Delete hidden. And it looks like we accidentally grabbed a little piece of the spine here. So same thing. Control Shift Alt, Control Shift drag, Control Shift A, Control Shift drag again. Delete hidden. And then the original skull here, we'll go ahead and get rid of these as well. And that's geometry modify, delete hidden. So we've got our skeleton sitting here. We've got a skull with teeth. We've got a skull without teeth, etc., etc. Just feel free to split this thing up into arms and hands and legs and hips and whatever you want. And then when you're done and you have all those pieces here, this is when you can do the whole deformation unify, repeat to other, rotate them as you want so that they're all oriented correctly. We'll put a skull this way, and then for the other one as well, we'll rotate it so it's down. We'll go ahead and capture it with the head towards us, brush, create insert multi-mesh. And if you do want to capture, like, you know what, I want them to look at me from the side when I drag it out, you can go ahead and do brush, create insert mesh, append, for that just to create variance. And now that I have this, I can drag these out from the side, or I can choose to drag it out from the bottom.